The 2 shillings 1956, often called the florin, is a historic British coin issued during the reign of Elizabeth II, one of the most recognizable monarchs in modern British history. The 1956 florin was part of the pre-decimal coinage system used in the United Kingdom before decimalization in 1971. In that older system, £1 was equal to 20 shillings, and each shilling was 12 pence, meaning that a 2 shilling coin represented 1/10 of a pound. The florin had already been in circulation since 1849 and was originally introduced as an early step toward decimal currency, which is why its value of 1/10 of a pound was considered convenient. By 1956, the coin was a regular and widely used denomination in everyday transactions across Britain and in some parts of the Commonwealth. The obverse front of a 1956 2 shillings coin features a portrait of Elizabeth II designed by sculptor Mary Gillick, whose portrait of the young queen appeared on British coins from 1953 until 1967. In this design, Queen Elizabeth II is shown facing right without a crown, wearing a laurel wreath inspired by classical Roman imagery. This portrait is often called the first portrait of the Queen on British coinage. Surrounding the portrait is the Latin inscription, Elizabeth II Dei Gratia Regina FD, or in some versions FID Def, which are abbreviations of traditional royal titles. Dei Gratia means by the grace of God, Regina means queen, and FID Def stands for Fidei Defensor, meaning defender of the faith. This title dates back to Henry VIII, who received it from Pope Leo X in 1521. Over centuries, it became a permanent part of British royal titles and appears on many coins minted during the reigns of later monarchs, including George VI and Elizabeth II. The reverse back of a 1956 florin features a detailed and symbolic design created by engraver Edgar Fuller. It displays 4 shields arranged in a cross pattern, representing the heraldic arms of the nations of the United Kingdom, England, Scotland, and Ireland. Between the shields are national floral emblems, the rose for England, the thistle for Scotland, and the shamrock for Ireland. This design reflects the unity of the kingdoms within the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. In the center of the shields appears the Tudor crown, a stylized crown used widely in British heraldry and coinage before it was later replaced by the St. Edward's crown symbol on modern coins. The 1956 2 shillings coin was minted by the Royal Mint, the official coin-producing authority of the United Kingdom, with a history dating back over 1,100 years. The Royal Mint was responsible for producing coins not only for Britain, but also for many countries within the British Empire and Commonwealth. In 1956, millions of florins were struck for circulation because the denomination was heavily used for daily spending. People used it for transport fares, small purchases, and wages when coins played a larger role in everyday commerce than they do today. In terms of physical characteristics, the 1956 florin is made from cupronickel, an alloy consisting mainly of copper and nickel. Earlier florins before 1947 contained significant silver, but due to economic pressures after World War II, Britain removed silver from most circulating coins. As a result, coins minted from 1947 onward, including the 1956 florin, were made from the more durable cupronickel alloy. The coin has a diameter of about 28.5 millimeters, a weight of around 11.3 grams, and a milled edge, fine ridges around the edge, designed to prevent clipping or tampering. Historically, the florin played an interesting role in British monetary history because it was the first British coin to be minted without the traditional Latin phrase referring to God when it was first issued in 1849. That early version became known as the godless florin. However, later versions restored the religious reference, and by the time of Elizabeth II's reign, the coin again carried the full royal title, including Dei Gratia. The florin continued to circulate until the major change in British currency known as the decimal day on February 15, 1971. On that day, the United Kingdom converted to a decimal system where £1 equals 100 pence. Because the florin was already worth 1/10 of a pound, it conveniently became equivalent to the new 10-pence coin and remained in circulation alongside early decimal coinage for several years. Collectors today often study coins like the 1956 2 shillings because they represent both the early years of Elizabeth II's long reign and the transitional period between traditional and modern British currency. While the coin is generally not extremely rare due to high mintages, its historical value, attractive heraldic design, and connection to the early 1950s monarchy make it an interesting piece for numismatists. The value of the coin depends on its condition, ranging from circulated examples next top. The 2 shillings 1962, commonly known as the florin, is an important coin from the traditional pre-decimal currency system of the United Kingdom during the reign of Elizabeth II. In the historical British monetary structure used before 1971, the pound sterling was divided into 20 shillings, and each shilling consisted of 12 pence, meaning a 2 shilling coin represented 24 pence or 1/10 of a pound. Because of this exact value, the florin had a unique place in British currency. The coin was originally introduced in 1849 as part of a gradual experiment with decimalization, since its value of 1/10 of a pound made calculations easier and hinted at a future decimal system. By 1962, the florin had already been circulating for over a century and was one of the most widely recognized denominations in British everyday life. It was used for many daily transactions, including public transport fares, small purchases in shops, and payments for services. In the decades after the Second World War, coins such as the florin remained essential to everyday commerce because electronic banking and digital payments did not yet exist. On the obverse front of the 1962 2 shillings coin appears the portrait of Elizabeth II, designed by British sculptor Mary Gillick. This portrait is often referred to by collectors as the first coinage portrait of Queen Elizabeth II and was introduced in 1953 shortly after her coronation. The design shows the young queen facing to the right and wearing a laurel wreath, a classical symbol inspired by ancient Roman coin portraits. Unlike later portraits that show the queen wearing a crown, this design presents a youthful and elegant image intended to represent the beginning of a new reign after the death of her father, George VI. Surrounding the portrait is the traditional Latin inscription, Elizabeth II Dei Gratia Regina FD, or sometimes written with the abbreviation FID-DEF. These words have deep historical significance. Dei Gratia translates as by the grace of God, reflecting the long tradition of divine authority associated with monarchy. Regina simply means queen, and FID-DEF stands for Fidei Defensor, meaning defender of the faith. This title was first granted to Henry VIII by Pope Leo X in 1521 for his defense of the Catholic Church. Even after England separated from Rome during the English Reformation, the title remained part of the official style of English and later British monarchs, and it continues to appear on many British coins to this day. The reverse back of a 1962 florin displays a striking heraldic design created by engraver Edgar Fuller. The design consists of 4 shields arranged in a cross formation, symbolizing the heraldic arms representing the nations of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. 2 of the shields bear the 3 lions of England, another shield shows the lion rampant of Scotland, and the 4th represents Ireland. Between the shields appear the national floral emblems, the Tudor rose representing England, the thistle representing Scotland, and the shamrock representing Ireland. At the center of the design sits the Tudor crown, a stylized crown used widely in British heraldry and coin designs during the 20th century, before being replaced on many modern coins by the St. Edward's crown symbol. Around the reverse design appears the denomination 2 shillings, along with the year 1962, clearly indicating the coin's value and date. The 1962 2 shillings coin was produced by the historic Royal Mint, the official mint responsible for manufacturing coins for the United Kingdom and many Commonwealth nations. The Royal Mint has a history that stretches back more than 1,000 years, making it one of the oldest minting institutions in the world. By the 1960s, the Royal Mint was producing very large numbers of coins to support the expanding British economy of the post-war era. Millions of florins were struck each year because the denomination was heavily used in daily life. Coins like the florin were particularly important because banknotes of small value were less common and most everyday transactions relied on coins. In terms of physical characteristics, the 1962 florin is made from cupronickel, an alloy primarily composed of copper and nickel. Earlier florins produced before 1947 had contained significant amounts of silver, but the economic pressures following World War II forced the British government to remove silver from circulating coins. From 1947 onward, coins such as the florin were minted in cupronickel, which retained a silver-like appearance while being cheaper and more durable. The coin has a diameter of approximately 28.5 millimeters, a weight of about 11.3 grams, and a milled edge with fine ridges. These ridges were originally introduced to prevent people from shaving off small amounts of precious metal from the edges of coins when they were made from silver or gold. Historically, the 2 shillings 1965, commonly called the florin, is a historic British coin issued during the reign of Elizabeth II and was part of the traditional pre-decimal currency system of the United Kingdom. In that old monetary system, £1 sterling was divided into 20 shillings, and each shilling contained 12 pence, meaning that a 2 shilling coin had a value equal to 1/10 of a pound or 24 old pence. The florin denomination itself dates back to the 19th century and was first introduced in 1849 as part of a gradual attempt to move Britain toward a decimal currency system. Because its value was exactly 1/10 of a pound, it was considered a convenient coin that could fit easily into a decimal structure if the country ever decided to convert its currency. By the mid-1960s, including the year 1965, the florin had already been circulating for more than a century and was widely used in everyday transactions such as public transport fares, small purchases in shops, and wage payments. It was one of the most familiar silver-colored coins in Britain during the 20th century. On the obverse front of the 1965 2 shillings coin appears the portrait of Elizabeth II designed by the British sculptor Mary Gillick, whose elegant portrait of the young queen was introduced in 1953 shortly after her coronation. This design is often referred to as the first coinage portrait of Queen Elizabeth II. In the image, the queen is shown facing to the right and wearing a laurel wreath rather than a crown, a style inspired by classical Roman coin portraits. The portrait was intended to symbolize youth, stability, and continuity following the reign of George VI, Elizabeth's father. Surrounding the portrait is the traditional Latin inscription, Elizabeth II Dei Gratia Regina FD, or sometimes abbreviated as FID Def. These words carry important historical meaning. Dei Gratia translates to by the grace of God, indicating the divine authority historically associated with monarchy. Regina means queen, and FID Def stands for Fidei Defensor, meaning defender of the faith. This title has been used by English and British monarchs since the 16th century, when Henry VIII was granted the title by Pope Leo X in recognition of his defense of the Catholic Church before the English Reformation. Even after England separated from the Roman Catholic Church, the title remained part of the official royal style and continues to appear on British coinage. The reverse back of a 1965 florin features a detailed heraldic design created by engraver Edgar Fuller. This design consists of 4 shields arranged in a cross pattern, representing the arms of the nations within the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. 2 of the shields show the 3 lions of England, another displays the lion rampant of Scotland, and another represents Ireland. Between the shields appear floral emblems symbolizing the countries of the United Kingdom: the Tudor rose for England, the thistle for Scotland, and the shamrock for Ireland. In the center of the 4 shields sits the Tudor crown, a stylized crown widely used in British heraldry and coinage during much of the 20th century. The denomination 2 shillings appears prominently on the coin along with the year 1965, clearly identifying the value and date of issue. The 1965 2 shillings coin was struck by the historic Royal Mint, which has produced coins for Britain for more than 1,000 years. During the 1960s, the Royal Mint was responsible for minting huge quantities of circulating coins to support the expanding post-war economy. Millions of florins were produced annually, because the denomination was widely used and necessary for everyday commerce. At that time, coins were still an essential part of daily life in Britain because many purchases were made with cash rather than electronic payment methods. In terms of its physical specifications, the 1965 florin is made from cupronickel, an alloy consisting mainly of copper and nickel. Earlier florins produced before 1947 had contained silver, but after the financial pressures created by World War II, the British government removed silver from most circulating coins to reduce costs and preserve precious metal reserves. The cupronickel version maintained the same appearance, but was more durable and economical. The coin has a diameter of approximately 28.5 millimeters, a weight of around 11.3 grams, and a milled edge featuring fine ridges around its rim. These ridges originally served as a security feature during the time when coins contained precious metals because they made it easier to detect if someone had shaved metal from the edge. Historically, the florin also played an important role in the gradual move toward decimal currency in Britain. Because its value was already exactly 1/10 of a pound, it fit naturally into the new decimal system introduced during the decimal day on 15 February 1971. Next top. The 2 shillings 1967, commonly known as the florin, is an important coin from the later circulating coinage of the United Kingdom during the reign of Elizabeth II. The florin had a long history in British currency and represented a value of 2 shillings, which in the pre-decimal monetary system equaled 1/10 of a pound sterling. Before the United Kingdom adopted decimal currency in 1971, the system worked with 20 shillings to a pound and 12 pence to a shilling, meaning that the florin had a total value of 24 pence in the old system. The florin was first introduced in 1849 as part of an attempt to gradually move Britain toward decimal currency. Because its value was exactly 1/10 of a pound, it was seen as a convenient denomination that would make the transition easier if decimalization ever occurred. By the time the 1967 florin was minted, the coin had already been in everyday use for more than a century and was a familiar part of daily life across Britain. The 1967 2 shillings coin features the portrait of Elizabeth II on the obverse front. The portrait used on the 1967 issue is the famous second portrait of the Queen, designed by sculptor Arnold Machin. This portrait replaced the earlier youthful image created by Mary Gillick in the early 1950s. In the Machin design, Queen Elizabeth II appears wearing the Girls of Great Britain and Ireland tiara, one of the most recognizable royal tiaras. The portrait shows the Queen facing right with a more mature and detailed representation of her appearance compared with the earlier design. Around the portrait is the Latin inscription, Elizabeth II Dei Gratia Regina FD, or sometimes written with the abbreviation FID-DEF. This Latin phrase has been used on British coinage for centuries and carries important historical meaning. Elizabeth II identifies the monarch, Dei Gratia translates to by the grace of God, and Regina means queen. The abbreviation FD or FID-DEF stands for Fidei Defensor, meaning defender of the faith. This title was originally granted in 1521 to Henry VIII by Pope Leo X for his defense of the Catholic Church at the time, and it later became a permanent title of English and British monarchs even after the English Reformation. The reverse back design of the 1967 florin continues the heraldic design that had been used for several years before decimalization. This design was created by engraver Edgar Fuller and features 4 shields arranged in a cross pattern, representing the heraldic arms of the nations within the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. 2 of the shields display the 3 lions of England. One shows the lion rampant of Scotland, and another represents Ireland. Between the shields appear the floral emblems of the countries, the Tudor rose for England, the thistle for Scotland, and the shamrock for Ireland. In the center of the shield sits the Tudor crown, a traditional heraldic crown used widely in British royal symbolism during much of the 20th century. The reverse also includes the inscription 2 shillings, along with the year 1967, clearly indicating the denomination and date of issue. The 1967 2 shillings coin was produced by the Royal Mint, which is the official mint responsible for manufacturing coins for the United Kingdom. The Royal Mint is one of the oldest continuously operating mints in the world, with origins dating back more than a millennium. By the 1960s, the Royal Mint was producing millions of coins each year to meet the needs of the British economy. The year 1967 is particularly notable because it was the final year that florins were struck for regular circulation before the introduction of the decimal currency system. In preparation for decimalization, the government had already begun designing and producing new decimal coins that would replace the traditional denominations. In terms of its physical characteristics, the 1967 florin is made from cupronickel, a durable alloy composed primarily of copper and nickel. Earlier florins minted before 1947 had contained silver, but after the financial strain caused by World War II, the British government removed silver from most circulating coins. The cupronickel composition made the coin more resistant to wear and corrosion, while also reducing the cost of production. The coin has a diameter of approximately 28.5 millimeters, a weight of about 11.3 grams, and a milled edge with fine ridges around the rim. These ridges were originally introduced to prevent people from shaving small amounts of precious metal from coins when they were made of silver or gold. One of the most interesting aspects of the florin is its role in the transition to decimal currency in the United Kingdom. When the country officially adopted decimal currency on Decimal Day on February 15, 1971, the florin's value of 1/10 of a pound made it extremely convenient to convert into the new system, instead of immediately removing the next top.